Now that you already did your sketch, it's time for us to go ahead and use the chalk pastels and color in the eye. We're going to start with the actual eye, the iris, the pupil, and then we'll go around and do the textures. When we do it this way, just make sure that when I want to color this corner, and this is already done, I'm not putting my hand on and rubbing it, you'll have to turn your paper and do it a little upside down, which won't be too hard. We really want to focus on getting this part done and then working on that texture. The texture will go a bit faster. So, to begin with my eye, now you should have a colored piece of paper, either gray or brown or light brown. I'm doing mine on white, which will take me longer. I don't have that base color already. If I had a base color of brown for my horse, then I could just add the highlights and lowlights and it goes so much faster. But for these videos, I went ahead and used a white piece of paper, so hopefully you can see all that sketching I did. I'm going to begin with the pupil. It's black. If you have a highlight, make sure you don't just color over that, but mine doesn't. So here I am. I'm going to follow where these lines are, right? It's almost like a coloring book line. I want to draw it and then fill it in. I'm going to use the side of my chalk so it goes a little faster. You're not trying to wear it away. You're really trying to lay down a color. So I shouldn't see too much dust. Mine really doesn't have that much dust. I'm really trying to color it in. I'm being careful that my hand is off the paper, not rubbing across it. You've got to practice that. You've got to be ready, because if you do, you're going to be so sad. It's going to take away your whole picture. So I've got it colored in. Now, if I think that it's maybe not dark enough over here, instead of just scrubbing with my black, I could go ahead and spread around some of this color. Sometimes that'll help fill in any spaces that aren't filled in completely, because we do have the chalks. Now, I do have to remember that my finger is totally messy now. But there's my pupil. I have a really dark brown eye, so I'm going to put base color of this one. I'm going to try and avoid the highlight. I can always add it in later, but it'll be a lot easier in my world if I just try not to make it too dark right now. So I've got this. Now I'm going to make it way dark brown for my horse. This one, or is this one a brown? No, that's a purple. No, purple, brown. Again, I'm going to start just with that outline. And right here, hand is off the paper. I'm going to draw it in. And once I get the edges, it's, a lot easier to start doing larger spaces. Now maybe I look at this and think when it's all done, because of course you would finish it first, it's not dark enough. That's where you could take the black and mix it and make it darker. Or take a little bit of chalk and make it really lightly going over it. You don't want to tear at the paper by putting too many layers. You just want to softly put it right on top. So now that's even darker than when I just do plain brown. Now, I don't want to highlight in here, so I'm going to make sure I cover that up. Keep going. Let's do this corner down here so that I can show you how you do put in a highlight, though. So here's the edge. Use the side so it goes a little faster. Now, a highlight on the actual eyeball is going to be really, really bright. So it's going to probably could just be on the plain paper, like your plain gray paper. Could just take the white or yellow or something. For my example one, though, let's pretend that I accidentally kind of covered over it just lightly. So there I am blowing away the extra dust. I don't want to just rub it. Now, if I accidentally covered over it a little bit, you can still have that highlight show. I'm going to start with just my white chalk, and I'm going to just try and draw it back in right on top. Don't just scrub back and forth, rubbing it, because that's going to make it dirty. You really want to pick it up and put it back down. Now, if I think it's still too dirty, remember I used my hand. You don't have to use your hand. You should use a Kleenex or whatnot. And really add it in. Sometimes you want a little bit of it a lighter color than the rest of it, but then maybe I've got a really bold highlight right in there. I'm looking back and forth between my picture, so please don't forget to be doing that with yours. And I see that I've got this shape right, but it goes way longer, so let's go ahead and make mine way longer too. And it kind of goes up sharper than I thought. And then there's this corner one here. And you can tell where I didn't already put the brown is a lot easier to add that white highlight for sure. So that would be helpful if you don't color over it. But I want you to know that if you do color over it, there is hope. You can always go back and, you know, add some more to it. So see how I'm starting to fill in the layers on my eye? When I get to the eyelid, it's going to be a more fleshy color, not quite as dark brown. So maybe I'd switch to that medium brown I have when I do this part. But I do want to draw right over, you know, I don't need to have big blank lines, right? We don't want to see the pencil. We want it all done in the chalks. So here I added a lighter color on top of the brown because that brown was like the same color. Not what I wanted actually. So see how I can layer that right on top? Starts to separate. Remember, don't wipe. Don't spit on it either, but you want to just gently blow away any extra. This corner is really fleshy. And it definitely would have some white or maybe like a pink if I have like a pink kind of color for this light part. I want it to look a little different than the eyelid. And I could always go back in and add, this part is definitely dark in my picture. It's almost black again. So I wanted to add brown first, and then I'm going to layer on top that black part because I didn't want it to totally disappear. It does have some brown to it. That's going to make that highlight pop. Remember, you're not leaving a black line, so I shouldn't see you doing something like this and then tracing all those edges. You're not tracing edges with black line. That would be a cartoon. But in here, sometimes you might see an edge, like here in my picture, I can see a black edge. But in here, there's no black edge between the color changes. It's all light and gradual. So you shouldn't just be cartooning. You know, we really want to try and gently make those changes. Remember, you can always make it darker. You can make it lighter. Go ahead and start with the eye, the actual eye. Then we'll build the texture around it.